Oh, the tolerant left it's the phrase that I hear all so often. People, they'll highlight a video about Antifa or political violence and call it the tolerant left. And I'm like, let me just say this, okay? We got this story. Vandal tags GOP Manhattan office ahead of Proud Boys Gavin McInnes visit, puts party on notice in warning note. That apparently there's like a threat, like an actual letter of a threat. Here's the thing. Most people on the left, as we learned from that study I did a video on the other day, are passive and exhausted. They're like not engaged. And you have this very tiny minority of progressive activists. And it's not even like, look, okay, progressive activists, according to one study from Hidden Tribes, make up 8% of the country. But of that, even a smaller percentage are Antifa, like microscopic. That doesn't mean Antifa is not a problem. When they're tagging, buildings and beating people, they are a problem, even if they're a small minority. But they exist, okay? The point is, I see a lot of people on the right calling it the tolerant left, and I get it, it's a meme. But one of the things that happens with divisive language like this is that my friends who are your run-of-the-mill normies, who aren't really paying attention, hear that, and then that puts them at odds immediately with those who are on the right. And that's why, I'm not perfect, but I do try to avoid specific divisive language. Like I was using SJW a lot in my older videos. Now I'm specifically saying regressive left or SJW. Social justice activist or regressive left or illiberal. And the reason for it is social justice warrior has started to become like people on the left identify themselves as it in an offensive way. When someone says that, they get angry because they feel slighted. When you say regressive left, people are like less sure if they're part of that group. So, even in that regard, I try to be less, and like I'll try to say regressives or illiberal reactionaries, because I don't want to blanket those who are on the left with, I don't want to use the same broad stroke to cover them and Antifa when they're dramatically different. Like Lacey Green is by far dramatically separate from Antifa. Yet she is willing, she recently criticized someone like Ian Miles Chung when he was posting some commentary about bearded women, and Lacey had a respectful but critical comment, right? So Lacey, intersectional feminist, really good person, really smart, and really awesome. When you say the tolerant left, I understand most people are referring to this nonsense, right? Like people threatening Republicans, but as much as I understand that, I always try to at least stress, even if I'm not doing good enough job myself, I'll try harder. I want to stress that you're less likely to engage in a good conversation if you blanket everybody, under the same, you know what I mean. You guys get what I'm saying, basically. But let's hear about what Antifa is doing to the Republicans. The city's Republican Party club was vandalized Thursday night, party leaders said, by someone who left a note saying they meant to put the Republican Party on notice and warning it was just the beginning, a day before the founder of the Western chauvinist group Proud Boys is set to speak there. And this goes for them, too. Look, you can't blame every single they're putting the Republican Party on notice. Everybody wants to group everybody else, so much, and it always bums me out. Are there people on the right who are nasty people? Of course. Look, in my opinion, I think Gavin can be one of the most flamboyant, aggressive, and divisive individuals that exist on the right, for sure. It doesn't mean I will personally disrespect him. No, I'll try to have a legit conversation with him and people who follow him. And if you're a fan of Gavin's, I would never insult you and try and put you on notice as part of a group. I have genuine concerns and bring up legitimate things. We're not here to rag on Gavin McInnes, by no means. Just that I think the gist of it is too many people blame everyone for the actions of a few. The note was left at the Metropolitan Republican Club on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, along with graffiti of an anarchist symbol on the club's door and a broken window, according to the state Republican Party. The missive rails against Republican and U.S. government policies, including what it called concentration camps around the country for Latino people. Oh my God. The killings of Black and Muslim people and mass incarceration. I don't know if you guys followed my videos from, a few days ago on my main channel, my second channel, where I talked about how the left primarily engages with Occupy Democrats on Facebook. And that really, all right? Like, I'm going to point to this and be like, if you think there are actually concentration camps for Latino people, right? You are getting your news from absurd propaganda outlets. When we're talking about what's going on at the border with family separation, it's so ridiculously nuanced, right? First of all, these things have existed for a long time. Trump did not make them. Obama was called deporter-in-chief. I didn't see people complaining then. It doesn't mean they can't complain now. I just wish they did back then when Obama was doing these things. But, I can only blame the media for that. But also, they're not intended specifically for Latino people. It's just that people coming from Mexico who are Latino are the ones that they end up putting in these places. And to call them concentration camps, that's what people have been doing, and it's a whole other issue I don't want to get into. But I just feel like this is the kind of hyperbolic nonsense which makes people attack each other. And I feel like everybody's guilty of it. I'm going to do a video in a second about Taylor Swift and Kanye West, but it's like, often, you know what I think happens? Antifa, when they think of the Republicans, they're imagining the worst of the worst of the worst. And people on the right, when they think of the left, they think of the worst of the worst of the worst. And they highlight each other's worst attributes, each other's groups, and they're focused on it while they're ignoring the actual normal good people. And so it's frustrating for me when I see like these threads on Reddit and Facebook where they're like, all Republicans are dumb for this reason. And I'm like, no, dude, that's just the people you're looking at. You're not paying attention to the regular people who are Republican. And then the people on the right are like, oh, the SJWs are all crazy. And I'm like, you're just looking at the fringe, crazy weirdos. I know people who are intersectional feminists who aren't engaged in Antifa, protest, any of this. Like, they literally just post things on Instagram about why they believe in it. And they don't bother, that's it. It's just like, you can disagree with them, and you're allowed to, and I think so long as you're not an authoritarian, that's cool, believe whatever you want. While these atrocities persist unabated, the Metropolitan Republican Club chose to invite a hipster fascist clown to dance for them, content to revel in their treachery against humanity. Oh my. That would seem to be a reference to Gavin McInnes, who is set to speak at a club Friday night, and who is touted on its webpage as the godfather of the hipster movement. This is true. Who has taken on and exposed the deep state socialists and stood up for Western values. When I worked for Vice, they said that Gavin McInnes was like the creator, essentially, of hipsterdom. I don't know if people know this. Like, before Gavin was associated with the right in the way he is now, like 5-6 years ago, people were saying that the weird clothes, the hipsters, the mustaches, the glasses, the hair, everything was started by Gavin and essentially Vice. And that's probably why Vice is considered to be like hipster news. And then, Gavin's outed from the company, and then he becomes, whatever he is now. McInnes, who is Canadian, is a co-founder of Vice Media and now the leader of the far-right group Proud Boys, whose members self-identify as Western chauvinists and who has been involved in several physical conflicts with left-wing and anti-fascist protesters. The group has insisted it's not part of the so-called alt-right, but is designated as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Right, and that's the thing, like Southern Poverty Law Center can call you a hate group. You are. So your only option is don't form a group, I guess. The note also ripped Democrats as spineless partners in crime. And there you go. Apparently liberals get the bullet too. Our attack is merely a beginning. We are not passive, we are not civil, and we will not apologize, the note reads. Those of good conscience and clear mind know this state of oppression cannot remain. GOP party chairman Ed Cox is set to hold a press conference about the vandalism at 2 p.m. So apparently that press conference already happened as of the recording of this video, and I don't have that pulled up. Look, let me ask you a question. Are you at all surprised that some wingnut leftist vandalized a club for Republicans and threatened them for wanting to have Gavin McInnes speak there? I don't know a lot about Gavin, to be honest. I have seen really freaky videos, and I don't think he's like the best example of people on the right. But no matter what Gavin does, no matter who he is, whatever the Proud Boys are, two wrongs don't make a right. Vandalizing the club of Republicans because you don't like Gavin is not the appropriate way to go about solving your problems. Perhaps they should, you know what would happen? I would be shocked if Antifa reached out to them to debate Gavin and they were told no, right? Because you never have people associated with the far left willing to stand up and defend their ideas in front of a crowd when they're challenged. They don't do it. And this is one of the things that really freaks me out, and it's why we see this like direct threat. Why do they want to deplatform people? No argument. When I was in San Bernardino, there was an anti-Sharia law protest, and there was Antifa there. And somebody walked up and tried asking one of these Antifa protesters a question. What did they do? They immediately started chanting and just drowned out all conversation. When the person left, one of the organizers said, do not speak with them. They're going to lie to you and try and trick you. As soon as they start talking, start chanting so they can't speak. And I'm like, that's a groupthink defense. That's how you inoculate, like you defend your people from learning. Because that's the only way they survive, in my opinion. What average person is going to be like, yes, destruction, vandalism, and violence is the right way to go? Most would not. Most would condemn violence. Unless it's their side they'll ignore. Because people don't want to hold their own sides accountable. So you know what? I don't know what's going to happen here. But the Republican Party is on notice, apparently. Antifa. You can't... Antifa's watching you. Apparently. I don't know. But you know what? This is not the first time. It's not the last time. And it'll certainly happen again in the short term. I'm really concerned about the midterms because if the Democrats end up losing when everyone thinks they're going to win, I think it might be another like 2016 moment. I was surprised we didn't see rioting after Kavanaugh, but not too surprised because it wasn't an election. They just kind of lost a political fight. But the midterms, this is going to be really interesting. So anyway, I got another video coming up. Apparently Taylor Swift endorsed a candidate, and then all of a sudden the candidate's ratings went down. And so people are claiming that Taylor Swift hurt this person, but we'll see what happens. Stick around. The video will be up in a few minutes.